and Lucas should be coming in any minute. We had an interesting, let's say, hiccup with Riverside here, but Lucas should be stepping in here any second now. I really appreciate any of you all that are coming along for the ride. There he is, and see, and he doesn't know that we're already live. So
Hey,
I hit
I'm
the button
I'm
ahead
always
of him.
on. I'm always on, so it doesn't matter.
I kind of figured as much. I kind of figured as much. So yeah, I went ahead and started it. We should be in good shape with this here. So we're gonna have a conversation. We are planning on talking until 3:40, at which point I have to fold stuff up and leave like a bad habit. But I'm excited to do this. I'm excited to get a couple of people in here to hear what everyone has to say. And you guys are going to see me occasionally looking at this laptop because I'm running things from this laptop. Although Lucas is right on that screen over there.
Hey, here I am.
How are you?
Oh, I'm so great. It hurts inside a little bit. How are you, buddy?
It just hurts. it, it just hurts.
Yeah.
So we were going to talk today, and it's kind of interesting because it's something that I had for a long time in terms of I was not aligned with what I was doing.
Mm,
Um, I know there's ways around it. I mean, look, if it pay me $500,000 a year, there's a lot of things out of alignment that I'd be willing to do.
sure.
But considering most of us are not in that weight class, the typical difference in between the our pay and the $500,000 a year is the decimal point. Um, that is the
And the
difference.
comma. Don't forget the comma.
Correct, correct. There's commas, there's decimal points. All of it, it's just numbers are all the same. It's just
Sure.
different things in between them. How does someone know when they're not aligned? Their job isn't aligned with their purpose.
I love that, Josh. I love that. Hey, just so everybody knows, because I have some friends on here or that are going to be hopping on that may not know who you are, Josh. So Josh Trokey, Pedal Stomper Productions, phenomenal guy, helps me so much behind the scenes with my podcast and everything. So I appreciate you, buddy.
Thanks.
How do people know? That's a really good question, and that's honestly one of the biggest struggles I have with the work that I do as a coach. Is I have to sell people logical explanations to a feeling, right? How do I help people understand that
That's tough.
the burnout, right? The burnout that we're feeling, the struggle, the pain, the headaches, the honestly for a lot of my clients, the anger. Like I'm flipping people off in the middle of traffic on the way home, all right, because a guy turned on his turn signal, but kind of almost got a little bit too close to me in front of me, or he merged in front of me and that like he took my opportunity to be in that space even though I didn't want to be, and now all of a sudden I'm just angry at him, right? Like that is a
Makes sense.
sign. That is a sign. And so um it can be so challenging to help people understand this. I talk to people, I tell my clients a lot, there are two reasons people change. One is because they hurt enough that they have to,
Ooh.
or they learn enough that they want to. And I believe a good friend of mine, Kevin Ling, mentioned that. I love Kevin to death. And so you're running from something, you're running towards something. My job as a coach is to help people run towards something. And that something for me, there's a lot of different things people can run towards, but for me, that's finding that purpose and pursuing it, so that they can build a fulfilling life and do meaningful work. And so when you know that that's not happening, you're feeling things like burnout, like stress, being stuck, uncertainty, waking up in the morning and hitting the snooze button 3 or 4 times, not because you're tired, but because you're like, why would I get up a little bit early? Right. Like, right. We all know that extra 10 minutes, fearing that the snooze is going to go off again. Like that's not good sleep. And
No.
so it's, I'm not waking up excited about anything. One of the questions I ask my clients a lot, usually a check-in question, but it says a lot, especially early on, is, hey, what are you looking forward to in the next couple of weeks? And I
Ooh.
and I get nothing.
Oh, it's interesting you say that because that's one that I always I find interesting with people, and it's a favorite question for me in the podcast studio. What are you excited about? What's coming up that you're excited about? Because everyone does the small talk baloney, like, how are you? How's the weather? No one cares.
No one cares.
If you actually want to find out about someone, give that, what are you excited about?
Sure.
And when you hear that, going to bed tonight,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's not a great answer.
No, no. It's the t-shirt I see all the time now, which is like, I don't know what made you think I cared. Like the passive aggressive shirts. I laugh. They're funny. It expresses your feelings. I love it. And it also breaks my heart, right? Because like there's some truth
Sure.
behind it. And it's like, oh man, like I kind of want to laugh with you, but also can I help? Like what's is there something we can talk about, right? Cuz it's not a fun way to, I don't know. It's,
No, it's
keeps
not a great way to exist.
yeah. So, and you mentioned the small talk. I think way too much. People tell me that a lot. So I'm always constantly asking why. And I'm always like, why do people love small talk? Why do we jump into that? And I think a lot of it has simply to do with the safety of it, right? What's the
Sure.
number one thing people talk about for small talk? Can you guess?
The
The
weather.
weather. That's yep,
Yeah.
nailed it, right? Because we all experience it and it's out of our control. Therefore,
Oh,
if I mention it, there's nothing you can't be upset about it. Hey man, this rain, right? It's like although these days, but yeah, but rain helps me grow my crops, keeps food on the table, right? There's probably a way we can become divisive about that. But yeah, it's safe, right? But like you, I'm not interested in safe. I'm interested in meaningful. So you want to hear something I do with people?
yeah. By all means, because that is the how do you get there with people? That is a big question on that.
Yeah, I love that. So, a couple things. One thing that I do, there's two things you have to do. One is to take the leap first in trust. So, and I actually just literally read about this, and I'm blanking on the book that I read, but it's this idea of you have to share something a little bit meaningful first, and then allow that the opportunity to spiral into something meaningful. And so, actually, it was from the book "The Power of Moments" by the Heath brothers. And so you have to the first step that I do is I ask people how you doing? And you're always going to get the same response, good, fine, busy,
Right.
good, fine, busy, right? So I follow that up with what makes you fine today? Because what I found,
That's interesting.
yeah, what
Why
I
why is today fine?
yeah, yeah. Why are you fine today? Right? Because if you ask that question, like so you'll get good all the time. My students always tell me, "Oh, I'm good." I say, "What makes you good today?" Right? Because the reason they're answering, we're one of the only countries that is ridiculous enough to answer a question with a question like, "How you doing, bro?" "Oh, how you?" Like that's a common like introduction, and we got nowhere. But when you ask what makes you good, for one, you're recognizing that you listened. I heard what you said and I'm responding to that. It's not like, "Oh, it doesn't look like you're good," right? You're not questioning, you're not judging, you're not criticizing, you're not judgmental, right?
You don't look so
Yeah,
good.
you don't look good. You look like you look like you're, hating life right now. But it recognizes and acknowledges that you heard them, and it gives them permission to explain further. And what normally I find is that my students say, "Well, actually, I'm really stressed for a test." I get truthful responses to that. And then from there, because I care, right? One of my core values is empathy. I get the opportunity to like weigh in on that. Oh man, yeah, that is stressful, right? And so that's really powerful. And what the Heath brothers shared in their book is you have to give a little to get more. And so
Sure.
and they actually did a study on this. They found that they did the research on it, and then they had a questionnaire afterwards that determined how deep the relationship went. Within a 45-minute interview of two people just communicating to each other, within 45 minutes they had a deeper meaningful connection score based off of an actual research statistical validated survey. They had a deeper, more meaningful connection than most marriages within a 45-minute conversation, because they prompted these questions that went deeper at each level.
It's interesting you say that. And I don't want to say shameless plug here, but to
Yeah.
a certain extent, one thing that I have found, and I'm assuming a lot of your podcasts are remote, so it's a little bit different.
Mhm.
But when I sit here in the studio and I'm one on one talking with someone that's sitting, I mean, just a little bit out of reach over here, and I have a 40-minute conversation with them in a podcast, I leave that room feeling so much better connected to them because I've asked them intentional questions
Mhm.
instead of asking them, "How you doing?" That's the That's interesting. Now, I do want to bring it back here though, because
Please, yes, yes.
a lot of what we're going to talk about is people identifying like their job isn't aligned with their
Mhm.
purpose.
Sure.
In 2 sentences, I am going to make this the impossible thing for you. In 2 sentences, how can people identify their purpose?
Sure. Yeah. So, in order to identify your purpose, you have to recognize within you what are the most important experiences of your life, good or bad, that you went through, and then determining the common themes that allowed those opportunities to exist. What I mean by that is when people feel very strong sensations, it's because whatever is happening in themselves, whether it's good or bad, is going for or against their values. And when we have strong emotional experiences, it's because something is happening in their life. I can
That
give you
makes
an
sense.
yeah, I can give you an example. I remember somebody really close to me having a conversation, and I looked up to them quite a bit. And I don't remember how the conversation got started, but I remember how it ended. And what I said to them, in effect, was, so no matter what you're telling me is no matter what I do, it'll never be good enough. And the response was yes. And I remember that as being so vividly remember that being a moment in my life that was extremely pivotal. And what I took from that, this person was not very good with words. I still love them dearly, but what I took from that was um, that no matter what happens, there's always opportunities to improve. You can always get better. And one of my core values is betterment, because
Nice.
I believe
Yep.
in order to live a purposeful life, purpose is my first core value. In order to live a purposeful life, you have to constantly be growing in the areas that you need to in order to thrive. So, in order to find your purpose in life, you have to reflect meaningfully on the things that matter to you most, and that's actually a practice that you can do. Now, I have different strategies for how I help people find their purpose. One that is really helpful if you're just looking for a really good tactical way is a book. It's actually over my shoulder, Find Your Why by Simon Sinek, where he goes through that practice of the highs and the lows to
Yep.
figure that out. So if you never want to hire me as a coach, if you're like, that guy's ears are way too big, they freak me out, then you can buy that book and you can go through it. You actually it gives you step by step the strategies and how to, like, you find somebody to facilitate it, whatever, like, and they will help you through it. But no matter what, I tell people my purpose in life is to help others define and fulfill their purpose so they can contribute meaningfully to the world. So if it's recommending my journal or somebody else's journal, if it's one-on-one coaching with me, or it's the book Start or Find Your Why with Simon Sinek, it doesn't matter to me. That's my purpose in life. And I got that through a series of reflections. I take action. I learn from those actions. I reflect on those actions to determine what was important to me. What did I like? What did I not like? Some of the most painful experiences in my life were the ones that shaped who I am the most. And then I constantly refine that. That purpose statement did not come to me in an aha moment or an epiphany. I've been working on that for the better part of 3 years. But every time I have an experience, I ask myself, what got better? What got worse? Why did this matter to you? And people just work so hard, so fast, so long. They never take the time to sit down and reflect. And when they have that opportunity, they use it to scroll or to binge.
So here's my question for you.
Please.
Was that more than 2 sentences? Um,
God no. God no. No, that was two very, very run
so
on sentences.
there was no periods in there, none.
A
Uh,
lot of commas, a lot of semicolons.
that
I
and
think I did it in 2 sentences, and then I elaborated, which if you were thinking I wasn't gonna do that, then we
right.
don't know each other very well.
No, 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 no. I knew that this was gonna, and especially I'm keeping track of the live chat and other items just to make sure that we're on track here. And with that, I was a bit distracted, so I'm not like able to put the lasso out and reel you in. So I was okay with letting you roll on that one. Um, what's a strategy for someone that's going to find a job that is aligned with their purpose?
Hmm. Yeah, I love that. I actually literally just got off a call with somebody who's struggling with this right now. They've been doing a side gig. Side gig turned into a full gig. They switched careers. They've been doing it 5 years, and they are struggling. It's just not working out well for them. And so my heart goes out to them. Um,
Sure.
the strategy to figure out to find a job with purpose. I think the first part is, until you know what your purpose is, you can't find a job that fulfills it. right? Some people
Makes
fall
sense.
into it, right? So that's so the model of well-being that I created in the center of that is what I call directional well-being. I found over the years that like so many of these people are like, I want to improve my vocational wellness, I want to improve my physical wellness, I want to improve my emotional wellness, but there are 8 different areas of our well-being in my model, right? One of my favorite quotes: all models are wrong, but some are useful. So you know, this isn't the perfect model, but in my model, I found like, okay, so you want to work out more, but you don't know what that means. And so more is just more all the time, more.
Sure.
Well, there's 8 areas to improve. You can't do more in all of them all the time. I wanted to know what better looked like. Like what was better? Better might be less. Better might be a shift in what you're doing. And so I started to notice in all these areas, I didn't really know, I couldn't tell you what better was until I knew what you wanted to do with it. What do you want to do with your physical health? What do you want to do with your vocation? What do you want to do with the money that you have? Is $1 million really what you need? Is it $45,000 a year? I don't know. Do you? And so,
I mean, the 500 would the number that we talked about earlier. That's
sorry, that was a universal you, but Josh, I need to know right
yeah.
now, what's in your bank account? What's your social
Um,
security number? What's your
both both dollars are there securely.
perfect? Awesome. They locked them down.
Both dollars are there.
Yeah.
We're good.
And so what I found was that directional well-being piece was the centerpiece to all of it. That's why visually, I don't know, like one day I'll have somebody who can pull that up and we can do stuff with that. But the directional well-being is in the middle. And what that basically states, what is your purpose in life? And what are the values that you live by to fulfill that purpose? And then once you know that, then you can start to make directional choices towards that in everything else that you do. That's what I do with my clients. That's the first step. Actually, the first step is to get you out of the burnout that you're currently feeling, because that's why people reach out to me. I don't know. I don't like my life. I need to get out of it. So once
Yep.
you get out of that, then you can start to talk about the purpose piece. You can go deeper. And so, because Maslow's hierarchy of needs shows us until we have food, water, shelter, and space, we can't go on to the fun stuff. Right. Um, and so
I mean, we can. We're just miserable doing it.
correct. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. I've seen a lot of people driving Hummers that probably aren't taking care of their bodies. So
Correct.
so the so w- until we understand that direction, we can't make those better decisions. However,
Sure.
we also need experiences. I get this all the time from my 19 through 21-year-old kind of people. Is like, I don't know what my purpose is in life. It's like, you haven't had enough life to know what that purpose is, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
No, that so I gotta stop you on that one
yeah, please.
because I know you teach,
Mhm.
and with that teaching, what do you tell someone that's like, hey, at 18, I have to figure out what I'm going to do with the rest of my life? Because for like me, it's so interesting. I mean, I'm 47. In some ways, I'm going on 7. In some ways, I'm going on 70. Um, it took me 35 years it took me 40 years basically to figure out what I want to do when I grow up.
Yeah.
I still don't want to grow up, but
Yeah.
I figured out
Totally.
when I get there what I want to do.
Yeah.
Um, when you tell someone that's 18, 19, like, hey,
Yeah.
here's what you can do for the rest of your life.
Yep. I tell somebody the same thing that I tell a lot of my clients when they go, man, I really wish I would have known this 20 years ago, right? Like, we don't know it. You didn't know it then. You know it now. And what matters is that you can do something with it. And so for somebody who's 18 to 21, I'm telling them, for one, like, recognize the average lifespan is 80 years, right? And the people that don't want to talk about death, and this is a whole nother conversation, right? But people don't realize that the more you can recognize that life is fleeting, the more caring you get.
Hmm.
Right. I took a Greek mythology class in college because I hated myself. So what I learned once was that the Greek gods actually envied mortal men because they died, and because they died, everything was more beautiful. Right. Like, the people that go through life or like near death experiences, typically, depending on how they choose to go about that transformation, typically appreciate life more because of the fact that they realize that life is fleeting. And so for the 18 to 21 year olds, helping them recognize, yes, you only have one life and you need to live it, right? And you've lived 20 years at the very least, as long as everything goes well, right? And we don't have accidents, which again, life happens, you're going to have 3 more of those. If I asked a 20-year-old, like, think about every moment you've ever had in your life, you have 3 more of those happening. And so it's like helping them understand that they have time is huge. And then recognizing too that one of the challenges that a lot of people have is they're going through the motions, right? They're not taking the time to like to again take action and then stop and reflect on it and ask myself, what do I like about this? What do I not like about this? We spend a lot of time saying things that we dislike, but we don't reflect on it enough to go, how do I make sure that doesn't happen again?
It's interesting, and I really like that piece because something about that. I was talking with a friend the other day. So many people are just going through the motions, waiting for life to happen.
Mhm.
It doesn't. It just ends.
Yeah.
You either make it happen or it ends. Sometimes it ends while you're making it happen. Uh,
Sure. If
um,
if
d-
if you're lucky, you make it happen for the entirety of your life and then it ends, right? As
right,
opposed to just whittling away.
right. But that doesn't happen without intention.
Correct.
And that is, it's funny because I see so many people, especially older ones. We won't name generations, but to really that are, from my perspective, still waiting for life to happen.
Mhm.
And it's been interesting to see that for some that are like later in their career. What's a way for them to find that purpose and change careers? I mean, I did that, and I feel like I don't want to say I was lucky in doing that because I'm like, oh, hey, I'm in a spot where let's just make the change and just do it. And
Sure.
I mean, there was some pretty painful changes that came along with that,
Yeah.
some good ones. But how do you encourage people to make those changes?
Yeah. Yeah, that's such a powerful point and one that kind of aligns really strongly with this, right? Is that idea of do your job and your purpose have to be the same thing? And
Right.
so the model that I use, one of the aspects of the well-beings that I focus on is vocational. And vocational is not your job. Your vocational is what you do with your time to contribute to the world.
That's interesting. I like that perspective.
Yeah. Because think about, Mother Teresa, she didn't think what she did was an occupation, but it was certainly a vocation. And just so everybody knows, in case they don't know the term vocation, it means your calling, right? Like what you are called to do. Some of us are fortunate enough that we get paid to do that. But not everybody is. A stay-at-home mom, their vocation is caring for the people in their home, taking care of their home, making sure it's happy and healthy. That's their vocation. They don't get paid to do it, and that's okay. So you have to one of the first steps is ripping those things apart sometimes for the client or for the individual because they 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 identify so strongly with it. Who I am is what I do, and what I do is what I get paid for. And so a
Makes
lot of
sense.
a lot of that conversation is about, can you disassociate from your job? Can you disassociate the value that you have as a human from what you do to make a living? Right? Like my purpose is defining others' purpose, helping others define their purpose so they can create a fulfilling life and contribute meaningfully to the world. I do that as a father. I help my son determine, like, we went and made snow plows at an engineering program the other day because he loves to build things. So I'm like, oh, hey, let's go learn about being an engineer.
Why didn't you take me along?
I know. I'm sorry. We got pictures. I'll show it to you.
Good.
Little cardboard cutouts. It was great. So and then one day he talked about being a graphic designer in his art class, and so I went and took him to a real life graphic designer, right? Like one in the zoos that you get to see. No. his name is Colin, and he's such a sport. He had a phenomenal time. But I was like, Colin, can I come show him like a real life graphic designer? He's like, yeah, I'll do a little dance for him.
Can I show him one in the wild?
Yeah, right. So, but that's my purpose in life, and I'm doing that with my son. I'm doing that with my wife. I'm doing that with my clients. I'm doing that with the coaching that I do. I'm doing that where I teach. And so, if one of those things falls apart, hey, guess what? I'm still okay because I still get to do what I do every single day. And so, the first step is disassociating what you do for money as what you do with your life, so that you can start to open up your mindset to other opportunities, right? Now, obviously, you still have to figure out what you can get paid for. You still have to make money. right? You still have to hopefully do things that you're good at. You got to be competent at it. Um, right? Like that's what this I can never remember which direction. Ikigai right here, right? It's
Yep.
what you're good at, what the world will pay you for, what you love, and what the world needs. And when those four things come together, you have Ikigai. So that would be nice. But again, if that's not what if you don't know what that is or whatever, and you have bills that you have to pay, because the other thing is the preconceived notion of what success looks like, because that's what society told us, because we grew up without having anything and now we want a bunch of money to prove to everybody else that we're better than what we think we are. And like there's all these internal structures within us that make it sometimes hard to let go of, like, well, no, like if I quit my job then I won't have as much money. It's like, okay, and like, and what does that do to you? What does that mean? What is that really causing issues? Right now, I have a family I have to support, right? So there are things that I'm unwilling to do, but it's because I know what's important to me and I know that I need to be there for them. So it's not because I'm trapped in the bills, it's because I choose to be. And so that's usually the first step, is disassociating and then asking what could be.
It's funny you say that, because the other thing that I see out of so many people in so many cases is when you say trapped in the bills, they're trying to buy the happiness.
Hmm.
Um, I see a lot of people driving around with $1,200 car payments that aren't huge fans of their cars. And when you look at the amount of time that you spend in your car every day, people are like, oh, I spend a lot of time here. I'm like, no, you spend more time at work. Be happy with your job.
Hmm.
Don't be happy with your car. I'd rather drive a crappy car and be happy with what I do than, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a big Porsche fan.
Sure.
I still probably would rather be happy with what I do than be 15 miles a day in a Porsche.
Yeah.
That it just those all make sense.
Yeah.
We've got about 10 minutes left here. So I want to talk about, like, if someone's if they're struggling with this, is it come down to a case of they need to figure out what's valuable and what's not to them and put pricing to that? Like, my sanity's worth X dollars, or I should be, how does someone justify some of that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So a couple things a couple ways that they could go about doing it, right? One could be very, very tangible, like figure out a budget. Buddy of mine, Jim Fatu, I think he might have been hopping on the call. He said one of his favorite quotes, I share it all the time, is a budget is telling your money where to go instead of asking it where it went. So figuring out a yeah.
Oh, that's gold.
Yeah.
I
Don't
love
you love
that.
that? Don't you love that?
Yes.
Jimmy Fatu, he's the man. I see you, buddy. You're an eagle. So a budget can really help you better understand, like, what truly do you need to make versus not make. You may
Yep.
have to make some sacrifices. You may have to say, I don't need the Porsche. I can sell the thing. I can do the stuff. So take an audit of the budget. Also take an audit. Basically, you're taking an audit of all the different dimensions of your well-being, right? So social is one of them. Take an audit of your friends. Are you hanging out with people you don't like and trying to impress them with shit you don't need? By doing by doing a job that you hate, right? Tyler Durden said it best in the Fight Club, right? Going to a job you hate to do work you hate for shit you don't need, right?
Yeah.
That's
We
that.
and we all see it. We all, I mean, the thing when you say that, there's someone that we all instantly picture in our head besides the dudes from Fight Club.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, I'm not going to sit up here and preach. I've done it before. There are plenty of cars that I'm like, man, really? Could I? Like, maybe I can make this work. And I'm not even a car guy. But sometimes my literal thought is, if I have a nicer car, then people will be like, oh, what does he do? And then they'll give, they'll be like, oh, I'll hire him because he obviously has his stuff figured out. Right. But again,
More
if
Lambos.
if the people that are trying to hire me think that the offer that I have for them is more wealth, that's not what I'm providing. That's not what is important to me. And so I'm being authentic to myself by saying, right, maybe I'll have a nicer car later. I don't know. Um, so yeah, you have to recognize how much money do you actually need? Who are the people you're surrounding yourself with, and are they supporting the values that you have for yourself? Right. what truly another aspect of it, a lot of models use financial wellness. I use material wellness. And the reason is because money isn't the only thing that we need. So if you go off
Sure.
grid and live in Alaska, you don't care about money, but food, water, shelter, space, right? So material wellness helps us understand, do I have the things in my life I need to live the quality of life that I want? And if you do want a mansion and all those things and you can afford it and you can be a part of that lifestyle, then by all means do it. Aspire, but don't think of yourself less than because you're not there yet. That's a mindset and a growth path, right? It's not a snapshot in time. So it's taking an audit all those different things and then asking yourself, is what I'm doing now worth the another one is mental health, right? Mental well-being. Is what I'm doing now worth all of those things? Is it supporting it? Is it supporting all those different things? Or is it detrimenting one for the sake of the other? And that's why directional well-being for my model is right in the center, because when you get that right, it supports everything else. A rising tide raises all ships, as opposed to I have to pull away from my mental health to support my material health. That's just not a sacrifice you should be making.
I kind of like that analogy too, because that to me kind of gives that if you start from a good place, yeah, I guess I would say to me it's as a weightlifter. Um, if if I'm starting from a good place, it's easier to lift something heavy.
Mhm.
If I've got an injury here, or I'm dealing with this, or I'm stressed out about that, I'm just not going to be able to do as much. So having the ability to really start from that good place, realizing that okay, maybe I don't need to deadlift X amount, but if I'm putting on the muscle that I want to be and I've got the core strength and I've got those other items, I'm not going to be shooting my spine out of my back later at a later time. I know that's kind of a weird or weak analogy. Maybe it's just having that centered base
Mhm.
to realize that I guess I would say it puts you in control instead of letting the things control you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There's a big word that I love to use a lot, and I think people describe me almost to a fault sometimes as intentional. A lot of my clients come to me. I had a background in physical wellness. And so some of them come to me with this aspect of I want to get healthier physically. And I love it because that was the door that led me into this world, right?
Sure.
Physical, like I wanted to be better physically. And then I started to recognize, oh, I could be better in all these things. And so when they start to talk to me, they're like, I want to be better physically. And we go through the five whys process, whatever framework you want to use, and they really don't have an intentional idea of what that looks like, and because they don't have a lot of the preconceived knowledge of that world, the only thing that they can lean back on is what they think fitness looks like, and that typically is they lean back to when they were in high school, right? Well, when I was in high school, I could do this, this, and this, and this. And so because and they know in their mind that they're not young anymore, but that's the only thing they can think of. So they're in their mind, they're like 400-pound deadlifts is what fitness looks like. And my response to that is, you lift a laptop for work. Like that's 3 pounds, maybe. What are you lifting that's 400 pounds? Right. And so, yeah, easy. Don't strain your back. So, so again, it's asking ourselves, like, because it's such a we watch all this, the David Goggins, phenomenal human, Jocko Willing, phenomenal human, Ronnie Coleman, awesome. We see those as the pinnacle, and we say, if I'm not there, then I'm not worth it.
Right.
And it's just, why they do that, because that's their life, that's what they want to do,
It's all
right?
they do.
Like, yeah. But if you don't know what you want to do with your life, you think that's the answer. You think mansions and sports cars are the answer. Those people do that because that's their life, right? Peter Attia talks about F1 because he loves it. So he's into that thing, right? They live it. And so if that's not what you want to do with your life, then don't pursue that. But figure out what it is you want to do with your life, and then build the other pieces of your life to support that. I believe strongly in physical wellness, and being healthy for a purpose. And that's what
That
people
makes
miss a lot.
it's funny because in one of your previous podcasts, I remember one of your guests made the I forget which one it was, but he made the example of what are you lifting? He's like a bag of mulch. Be fit enough to lift a couple of bags of mulch and not hurt for 2 weeks.
Yep, that was Frank Wintrich.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
he trains bomb squad people in the FBI, so he knows what he's talking about. And he
I
and
have
yet his analogy was about lifting mulch. It wasn't about blowing
Yeah.
stuff up, right?
No, the thing that I find funny is I heard this from a it was a quoted from a bomb tech, and it was I think Frank would appreciate this. Bomb techs typically look at things as either I'm right or it's suddenly not my problem anymore.
Oh, that's
That
funny. That's funny.
yeah.
For anybody not in that world, that's morbid, but for them, I bet that's a pretty funny joke.
Yeah, it almost has to be. I
Yeah.
mean, you have to look at it that way. Either I'm right or it's not my problem. Or
Yep.
we're good.
Yep.
That being said, we got about 2.5 minutes left. What is a parting note that you would like to say in under 2.5 minutes? I know, and I'm just gonna push the button in 2 minutes.
Yeah,
Is
I don't know if I can keep it that low, but go ahead.
is alignment, job, and purpose? Is it important? And give me one sentence on why. And
No.
think about this before you start talking. So
Yeah,
give me the is it important and why?
sure. I'm gonna do the thing I always do, which is change the question because I'm fair. That's a fair way to live your life, right? It's important. It's not required.
I love that.
Yeah. You don't have to do it, but if you want to live a meaningful life, you do have to figure out what it's for. And whether you want to call it a purpose or a mission or a gift from God or whatever it happens to be, know why you get up in the morning and why you make the decisions you do. And if you can make that happen in your job, great. If you think it's too late for you, that's fine. But go find what it is and do it outside of 9 to 5 and quit it with the excuses of there's not enough time. There's enough time to do something meaningful for somebody else. There's enough time to volunteer. There's enough time to try something and see if you fail, right? The people constantly crucify themselves between two thieves, the regret of yesterday and the fear of tomorrow. And so
Ooh.
yeah, don't crucify yourself.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. For yeah, that to me is I think a spectacular place to leave it. I thank you for the time today.
Oh, I appreciate you, buddy.
This has been a lot of fun. We're gonna have some good stuff coming out of this, and we're gonna we've got this planned again for what 2 weeks again,
2 weeks,
basically.
every couple of weeks. Yep, yep.
Yep.
Wednesdays at 3.
Same bat time, same bat channel,
I love it.
and we'll roll this out again. And I'm interested to see what we talk about next time.
Me too.
Perfect. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We will see you guys very, very soon.
Make it a great day.